In this video, we'll show you how to install our all-new audio solutions for 2024 and newer Polaris RZR XP. Welcome back, I'm Eric, and today we're going to show you how to install the all-new RZR XP Stage-6 audio kit with or without ride command on this 2024 Polaris RZR XP4 Ultimate. Now, before purchasing, we recommend reviewing our compatibility chart to help you choose the right one for your RZR. You can find our compatibility charts at rockfordfosgate.com. Now, most of the installation on this RZR XP is the same, regardless if you're equipped with or without ride command. But don't worry, this video covers both scenarios. Now, to get started, we always recommend disconnecting the power before working on any electronics. The battery is located under the driver's or the rear driver's seat. For the seats, disengage the red strap and remove it from the vehicle. Use a T40 Torx to remove the battery cover, then use a 10mm socket or wrench to disconnect the negative terminal. All right, let's get started. Now we're ready to disassemble the upper dash. Start with the T40 Torx to remove 2 screws from the upper dash panel. Next, we'll remove the glove boxes using a 2.5mm Allen to remove 6 screws from each. When you're done, repeat the process on the other side. On the driver's side, you'll need to push in the USB cable through the hole. All right, now you're ready to remove ride command if your RZR is equipped with one. Start by disengaging the ride command trim panel. Then use a T40 to remove 2 bolts from the lower trim. Unscrew the lock cylinder and push it through the panel. Next, use a T40 to remove 2 short bolts near the antenna. Now we'll disengage a hidden push pin found in the radio box. Now that that's done, use your camera to take a photo of the connectors behind for reference when we do the reassembly. Then remove the ride command from the RZR. Now you're ready to remove the hood assembly. To get started, use a T40 to remove 2 screws from the forward section and 2 screws from the hood insert. Then remove 2 more screws that hold down the hood. Next, remove the A-pillar panels, being careful not to scratch the paint from the clips underneath. Then remove 1 T40 screw that's found underneath. Carefully remove the hood assembly from the RZR. Now use a T40 to remove 5 screws from the sub panel and remove it as well. Now, disengage 2 push pins from each door quarter panel and remove it from the RZR. Repeat the process on the other side. Use a shorty T40 bit to remove 2 screws from each side of the dash. Note that you may have to open the door slightly for clearance. Next, remove the cotter pin and center bolt to disengage the passenger grab bar and remove it from the RZR. Now, we'll remove 3 more T40 bolts from the front and 2 bolts from the center pocket. Finally, remove the dash from the RZR. All right, now let's get ready to remove that glove box. Use a shorty T40 bit to remove one bolt holding the glove box in place, then remove it from the razor. Okay, now we're ready to remove the OEM front speaker pods. On the driver's side, disengage the OEM speaker harness and the OEM amplifier connector. Next, use an 8mm socket to remove one bolt underneath the pod. Then, use a T27 to remove or loosen the top bracket bolts. Once you're done, remove the pod from the razor and repeat the process on the passenger side. All right, now we're ready to remove the center channel and the back firewall. To get started, we'll remove the remainder of the seats by disengaging the red strap and lifting up on the back to remove. Next, we'll use a T25 to remove 2 screws from the shifter knob. Now we'll use a T40 to remove 7 screws and 3 push pins from the front center channel. Then remove it from the razor. Next, we'll move to the rear section and disconnect the 12-volt accessory harness along with 4 T40 screws and 3 push pins. When you're done, remove the rear center channel. Finally, unlatch 4 twist knobs from the rear firewall and remove it from the razor. Okay, let's go ahead and head back and remove the OEM rear speaker pods. Use a T40 to remove 2 screws from the speaker pod and detach the speaker harness to remove it from the vehicle. Once you're done, repeat the process on the other side. All right, now we're ready to remove the front doors. Now, we advise to use an impact driver and have a helping hand when doing this process. While your helper is holding the door, use a T40 to remove 4 bolts from the door hinges, then remove the door from the razor. Once you're done, repeat the process on the other side. Now let's take a moment to review the main wiring harness. We'll start with the main accessory power connector. Here are the PMX radio connections and RCAs. Here are the color Optix, RGB, and power connectors. Here's the amplifier front, rear, and sub output connections. This is the front speaker connections with the tweeter utilizing a built-in crossover. Here's the subwoofer output. Here are the rear speaker connections, noting the right passenger rear is labeled. We also have front and rear color Optix extension cables for additional RGB accessories. Here is the main amplifier power connector. Here are the battery B positive and ground terminals with the built-in safety fuse that should only be replaced with a 100 amp maxi value. All right guys, now we're ready to lay out the main wiring harness. To get started, fish the battery terminal side of the harness through the front dash area. Route the harness on the left side and under the seat cross braces toward the rear of the vehicle. Split the battery terminals and route them under the rear seat bracket to the battery compartment. Position the color Optix expansion connector behind the battery box. Next, starting with the rear speaker harnesses, route the marked connector to the right passenger rear, up and over the filter housing. Then, route the unmarked harness up to the driver's side rear, exiting the wheel well. Pull the driver's side harness into the wheel well for connection to our rear pods. All right, now we're ready to clean up our wiring and replace that center channel. We'll zip tie our harness to the side of the factory wiring and replace the center channel and the front seats. Okay, let's take a moment to cover our rear speaker enclosure system. Here we have our entire rear speaker kit. There's hardware included with the speakers that we won't be using. Our M2 8-inch speakers include a stainless steel and sport grille. We'll mount these to the enclosure, making your wiring connections. Then we'll mount the enclosures to the brackets using the provided hardware and a 3mm Allen. All right, now let's install our speakers into the rear speaker enclosures. To get started, we'll make our wiring connections to both the color Optix and speaker terminals, noting red is positive and black is negative. Then we'll install the speaker with the Rockford Fosgate logo at the bottom and secure the speaker using the provided hardware and 3mm Allen bit. You may need a pick tool for proper alignment. Next, we'll attach the short and long rubber gaskets to the appropriate sides of the mounting bracket. Okay, now we're ready to install our rear speaker pods. To get started, use a T40 to remove one screw from the cargo tray panel. Insert the bracket with the Diamond R logo facing up and secure two existing screws that were removed earlier in the front and one in the cargo tray. Drill a 1/4-inch hole where noted on the top of the mounting bracket. Position the rear speaker pod in place and route the harness around the ROPS and behind the seatbelt panel. Attach the Deutsch connector with the harness previously routed in the wheel well. Secure the rear speaker pod to the bracket using a T40 bit with the new hardware, noting one on the bottom and two on the sides. Once you're done, repeat the process on the other side. Next, we'll clean up our wiring, being careful to stay away from any of the rear suspension or hot exhaust components. Once you're done, reattach the rear firewall and position the rear seat back in the vehicle. Alright guys, now let's take a look at our front speaker enclosures. This is our front speaker enclosure system that is pre-wired for the color optics and speaker plus and minus. Note that there is hardware included with the speaker box that will not be used in the kit. The stainless steel grills and trim rings are not needed because the pods will be located behind the factory dashboard and grills. We'll attach these brackets to the top of the enclosure using the provided hardware. Noting there's a bottom mount and each of the enclosures are marked passenger and driver sides. Okay, now let's assemble our front speaker pods. To get started, we'll first attach our speaker terminals, noting red is positive and black is negative. Then we'll attach our color optics Deutsch connector. Align the Rockford Fosgate logo toward the bottom and secure the speaker using the provided hardware and 3mm Allen bit. You may need a pick tool to help you align the speaker. Alright, now we're ready to take these over and get them installed in the RZR. We'll start on the passenger side by positioning the speaker pod and loosely attaching the top brackets with 3 screws and a T30 driver. Attach the bottom of the speaker pod using a 10mm socket with a long extension. Finally, position the pod and tighten the upper screws. Once you're done, repeat the process on the other side. Okay, let's take a moment to look at our front woofer enclosure. Here we have our subwoofer system. Now there's hardware included in the woofer box that we won't be using for the kit. The M2 10-inch subwoofer includes sport and stainless steel inserts, depending on your taste. We include an internal port cap that secures over the vent and is held in place using this long zip tie. The included hardware mounts the subwoofer to the front wall, and we'll use the bracket to secure it to the ROPS. We've also included a decorative trim panel to hide the Glovebox hinge. Okay, now we're ready to preload our front woofer enclosure. First, we'll confirm the Versa switch is set to 2 ohms. Then we'll attach our speaker wires, noting red is positive and black is negative. Then we'll attach our color optics Deutsch connector. Orient the subwoofer with the diamond R as shown and secure it in place using the provided hardware with a 4mm Allen bit. You may need a pick tool to help you align the screw holes. Finally, hand thread both top brackets using 2 screws for each one. Okay, let's take this over to the RZR and install our front woofer enclosure. To get started, find the 2 dimples in the front wall and mark them with a silver Sharpie. Next, drill 2 holes using a 11/64 or a 4.5mm drill bit. Note that there is one included in the unused subwoofer hardware pack. First, raise the back of the subwoofer enclosure until both the tabs fully engage into the front wall. Use your knee as a brace if needed. Next, secure the top bracket using a T40 driver. Then, secure 2 long screws using a T25 Torx driver. Okay, now let's take a moment to review our amplifier and color optics controller. This is the amp system, including our M5 5-channel, color optics controller, and bracket. The amplifier mounts to the bracket using the provided hardware, and the color optics controller mounts above it. Once the bracket is positioned, we'll use this C-clamp to secure it in place. To get started, we'll first disconnect the color optics power and the two connectors attached to the amplifier harness, as our main harness is already equipped with these. Now, we'll need to tune the amplifier according to the included tuning guide. We'll remove the cover panel using the supplied Allen wrench to access the controls. Using a small flathead, align the potentiometers and switches according to the tuning guide. Note, any adjustments outside the tuning guide can void your warranty. Okay, now we're ready to start making our main harness connections. First, we'll connect our sub-connector to our front woofer enclosure. Next, we'll attach our passenger speaker to the front speaker enclosure. Now we'll move to the other side and connect the driver speaker to the front speaker enclosure. Position the speaker connection out of the way in preparation for the next step. Okay, now let's get this amplifier installed in the RZR. First, we'll position the C-clamp assembly in the steering wheel box and position the amp plate inside the subframe. Hand tighten the screws for fitment, making sure to align the slot in the bracket with the groove in the front of the wall. Finally, tighten the two screws on both C-clamps using a 5mm Allen bit. Okay, now we're ready to install that amplifier. First, orient the amplifier with the Rockford Fosgate logo facing the driver. Secure the amplifier using a 2.5mm Allen and 4 mounting screws. Next, secure the color optics controller with 2 mounting screws using a 2.5mm Allen. Okay, now we're ready to wire our amp and our color optics lighting. We'll start by attaching the color optics power to the main harness connector. Then we'll connect the 2 RGB pigtails from the main harness to any of the color optics controller outputs. Note that these are keyed to fit one way and thread into place. Now we'll attach the inline tweeter crossover to the main harness and route it for connection later. Now let's connect the amplifier. Route the front and sub wires on the main harness and connect them to the front and sub input harnesses to the amplifier. Please note, the rear amplifier input harness remains unconnected. Next, route the PMX connector and the RCAs forward to the pocket area. Route the speaker connections from the main harness under the frame and attach the front to the amp front output, the rear to the amp's rear output, and the sub to the amp's terminal block labeled sub out. Next, we'll connect the power to the amplifier's plus and minus terminal block. Finally, we'll remove a cover from the factory pulse bar and attach the accessory power from our main harness until it snaps into place. Once that's done, you can clean up your wiring using the included zip ties and attach your passenger tweeter crossover. Okay, let's take a moment to review the source unit options in your RZR. Now this video serves as an installation companion for the RZR 24 XP Stage-6 equipped with the PMX source unit and the RZR 24 RSE XP Stage-6 equipped with the Ride Command interface that allows you to use Ride Command as your source unit. Here's our dash panels along with the Ride Command interface that installs behind the dash. We also have a PMX3 audio kit that includes a cage and trim panel that will mount the radio into the pocket of the dash. Now, looking at our PMX kit, we have the antenna jack with the supplied antenna, our RCA outputs for front and rear, our main power connector, the USB input for software updates, the video output for a backup camera, the Sirius XM satellite input jack. Now, when using a satellite receiver, connect the Sirius XM output RCAs to the auxiliary input jacks. Now, jumping into the ride command kit, we have our electronic interface with noise rejection circuitry, our primary connector that interfaces with the factory harness, the subwoofer input that gets sub signal from ride command, our main power connector, and our front and rear RCA output jacks. For PMX systems, we'll prep the dashboard to receive the PMX radio. We'll first flip the dash over to find the pocket cutout location. Using a blade, carefully cut the remaining sections to remove the knockout. To make the installation easier, you can cut this hole larger to accommodate the black box filter on the PMX harness. Now, be careful not to cut the molded in screw bosses, as these are used to secure the cage. Okay, now that we have the dash prepped, let's go ahead and install it in the RZR. Carefully position the dash back into place and reattach the diagnostic harness to the bottom, and reattach the ignition cylinder. Next, hand thread 2 screws onto the outside to hold the dash in place. Okay, let's take a moment to show how a ride command system is installed. If you have a PMX source unit, you can skip to the next section. We'll take our ride command harness and attach it to the factory wiring harness. Next, connect the subwoofer input to the factory plug. Note that this is not labeled. Now we connect our power connector to the main harness. And finally, our front and rear RCA jacks to the corresponding RCAs on our main harness. Okay, now let's show you how to install the PMX radio. To get started, we'll move the factory amp connector out of the way. Then we'll secure the pocket to the frame using a T30 to secure 2 screws. Next, we'll install our PMX cage to the pocket using a T30 bit to secure 4 screws. We'll feed our corresponding main harness and antenna down through the pocket area. We'll first connect our main power connector, then our antenna. Next, we'll attach our front and rear RCA outputs to the corresponding RCA jacks on our main harness, noting that white goes to white. We'll feed the harnessing that includes the black box filter back through the hole, then use a 2.5mm Allen to secure the PMX with 4 provided screws. Finally, we'll route the antenna under the dash and zip tie it in place. Okay, let's take a moment to look at our front speaker pods and door assembly. Here's the tweeter assembly. Noting the top, we remove the door frame from the door. We install the tweeter, then install the assembly on the top. To remove the door frame, we'll remove 9 bolts using a T25. Next, we use a short T25 to remove 5 screws from the top of the door frame. Now we'll install 2 washers onto the long screw and position the tweeter in place. We'll use a 2.5mm Allen to carefully secure the tweeter from behind. Do not over-tighten this screw. Next, we'll install the new tweeter pod to the door assembly using the T25 to replace the 5 screws we removed earlier. Finally, we'll reinstall the door frame using 9 screws with a T25. Once you're done, repeat the process on the other side. Okay, now we're ready to reinstall our doors and make our tweeter connections. To get started, we'll install the screws at both ends of the dash using a T40. Next, using a helper, carefully align the door back in place using the existing hardware. Check the door positioning, both open and closed. Then secure all screws using an impact wrench. Finally, connect your tweeter to the crossover we installed earlier and tuck the wiring out of the way, making sure the wire doesn't get pinched. Once you're done, repeat the process on the other side. Now we're ready to finish up and reinstall everything back on the RZR. To get started, attach the subwoofer trim panel in place and secure the 2 short screws using a T25 bit. Once that's done, reassemble the entire dash. If reinstalling a ride command, use the photo taken earlier to verify all your connections. All right, now we can make our battery connections and test the system to make sure everything is working properly. To get started, make your positive battery connection, then your negative connection using a 10mm socket or wrench. Power on the ignition and startup ride command or your PMX source unit. Make sure all functions operate, like the AM/FM radio, and make a Bluetooth connection to your mobile device. Verify the color Optix LEDs are illuminating. You can also download our RF Connect app from our website to control the color Optix functions. All right, as you can see, this install was straightforward. Now, if you have any questions, give us a call at 1-800-669-9899 or through live chat at rockfordfosgate.com. I'm Eric, and we'll see you in the next video.